Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Today we had the opportunity to talk to Megan. Megan is a dear friend of mine from high school, and she gives some wonderful insights on finding ourselves, finding love, and about being open-minded to transitions in our life and career. Um, Megan, I just want to say thank you again for joining me in this and having that wonderful dialogue. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you and getting to know you better. If you guys like what you see, please click the like and subscribe button below and, well, enjoy the talk. But I'm clicking it. Okay, we're good. All right. Megan, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm happy to be here.
there you go. That's awesome. I guess my first question is, do you mind like telling the audience a little bit about yourself or how you would describe yourself to other people, I guess, and about your life?
Oh, man, deep off the bat. Okay. Um, my name's Megan, and I was born and raised in a city in Alberta, and I kind of hopped around to a few different cities in my adulthood, but ultimately came back to the same city I was born and raised in, and now I live 5 minutes from my parents. Um, so I didn't stray far, even though when you're 18, you feel like you're gonna go far and stay away from your parents and never return. I definitely returned and missed them crazy amounts when I did stray far. um, yeah, my mom was a stay-at-home mom until I went to school. I was the youngest of two kids, and my dad was a truck driver all growing up. He long hauled when I was really little, so he was gone for weeks at a time. And then my mom, when I did start school, she went and she's a secretary at a school now. So yeah, they're still together. They have a very loving relationship. Um, I'd say I'm from like a Caucasian, blue collar family. So unfortunately, my family does suffer some prejudice and like racism, but I like to think that I have broadened my horizons and I stepped away from that as much as it drives me bananas that they're like that. And I try and remind them of their prejudice when we get into topics that I maybe don't agree with them.
hmm
And for the most part, they're okay at recognizing and like accepting new ideas, but sometimes I'm like, all right, we're not going to talk about this, because they're your parents and you can't get away from them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Do you mind me asking, like, what do you think is the fair balance? So, if someone's having a conversation with someone that is like, on the complete opposite end of them or something, and they're kind of stubborn on it, to what extent do you feel like you're comfortable pushing, or how far do you think someone should actually push before they should just, accept that there's a difference of opinion?
um, I mean, I think it depends on how close you are to the person, right?
hmm
Like, for example, like my dad and my mom, I'm usually able to like, like say, hey, look, excuse me, I burped there.
don't worry about
um,
it. I do that too.
uh, um, like, hey, look, like you're in the wrong. These are the reasons why. But and like my sister, I can't really do that with because we always end up fighting and screaming at each other.
hmm
But I think like close friends, you should be able to have that ability to like discuss, and even if you have different ideas, you're open enough to kind of like see their side of things. So I think it really comes down to like how close you are to that person, because
hmm
like if it's some stranger on the street, I'm not going to waste my energy and my breath trying to change this person's opinion on stuff.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
like you see the people with Facebook comments like arguing with one another. It's like you're never going to change their idea, just like they're never going to change your opinions, right?
hmm
The things that are going to change your opinion are like being more educated on a subject, or talking to people you care about and seeing their views. Those are the things that are going to change. So I hope that answers your question, but I think it really
I
comes
think
down to
so.
how close you are.
Yes, I think what you're saying is that it's okay to have a difference of opinions and it's okay to have those types of conversation because it expands your own views on things, but
Exactly.
it's a matter of just keeping it open-ended and making sure you trust each other so like no one's doing it in like bad faith or anything like that and understanding that, right?
Oh, exactly. And I think like for the most part, especially, there's all that stuff going on with the trucker convoy and anti-masks and vaccine mandate and stuff. Like
Yeah, the conversations
for
are harder.
yeah, but I mean like a lot of my friends and people that I like I'm close with, outside of family who you can't really escape from. Granted, my dad, who used to be a truck driver, is just kind of biffed and baffled. He's like, vaccines are safe, and he's like, you know how many people have got vaccinated and haven't turned into a zombie? He's like, there's evidence that it's fine. And then he's like, B, the price of hauling oranges from Florida to Canada right now is tripled from what it was a few years ago. So why wouldn't you want to get vaccinated and go down there and do that? He's like, I'd be jumping all over that if I was still trucking. And I'm like, I know. But
Hmm.
anyway, I got off topic there.
No, no
But
worries. No, no worries. Okay, so you were saying so you didn't stay in like you've moved around a bit. You've mostly stayed at home. So is family like a big value for you then? Is that why you ended up just being at home or?
yeah, I just found like when I moved away. So I lived in a city in BC for a while, and then I moved to another city in the same province that I'm in. And I found that, oh, sorry, my dogs are barking at the roommate to
Don't
get
even
pets.
worry about it. It's all good.
But anyway, when I moved away and I was far away from them, it was really difficult. Like I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be. It was like I missed them immensely. Like
Hmm.
just having the ability to go over there and see them, like just to be like, oh hey, like how's it going? Like phone call only does so much. So I think, I just being in those different cities really, really honed that I actually do really get along with my family and that my family are some of my close friends and that my dad always says, and I have it tattooed on my arm, other things may change, but we start and end with family. And I think
Huh.
that's
That's
a
beautiful.
really important thing. And I would like to point out that family doesn't necessarily have to be blood. It can be the people that you care about most. I have friends that I would call my siblings.
And well, I've known you for years, and honestly, what you're saying just fits with how much love you show everyone. So this
Oh,
makes a
well,
lot of
thank
sense.
you.
Ah, it's
Feel so
true.
honored. So
It's it's true.
you're gonna get a lot of rambling answers, by the way, from me. I
That's all
just
I
so you know.
you know what, to me that just states that you're being genuine, and that's all we're looking for here. So thank you so much for that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah,
no trouble.
for sure. Okay, so do you mind sharing like your like what you took in university, and did you like enjoy it or whatnot? Like
Oh,
your I guess like more of your educational background or your career stuff, and
oh,
what
oh.
led to
So
those
now we're
decisions?
switching to interview mode.
No, no, all of
What
this
would?
is still chill. It's still chill. I'm
Oh,
just
we're
I
not.
that's like
Why
the
would you be a good fit for this company?
don't worry, no one's gonna judge you on this one. At least
Oh, okay, okay. Well, when I first moved away and thought that I wanted to get away from my family and that I wasn't as family centered as I actually turned out to be, I went to school for tourism studies. And I did that because for the longest time, I wanted to be a marine biologist. And
Mm-hmm.
then I went on a trip down to Belize and I did a course about dolphins and learning about mammals and like their environment, marine mammals, I should specify. And then when I was down there, I was like, oh, I don't really like this as good as I am at the science stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like it as much as I thought I would. So I ended up going and like rethinking what I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, I kind of liked the aspect of, um, you know, talking to people and like going around and seeing different places and that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, what could I do with that? And I found tourism studies and I thought it was going to be so fun and so cool, but it turned out to be a glorified business program and I hated every minute of it. So yeah, that sucked. But I got my diploma because my mom said, you started it, it's only one more year. Like you might as well get your diploma because you only have
Mm-hmm.
one more year to get it. And
Right.
then while I was doing that last year, I was like thinking about what I wanted to do and what I was good at and what I could do for a job out of the stuff that I'm good at. And so I'm really good at biology, not to toot my own horn, but like that was always my best subject in school. And I like talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, nursing, which I had thought about in high school, but I never thought I was smart enough for it. So I applied to a bunch of places. I applied to the two major universities in the city I live in, but the competitive average was really high to get in. So I didn't get in there. And I applied to a college in the city that I grew up in, I should specify, back in Alberta. And then I also applied to a college that was in a different town in Alberta where my partner at the time was living.
Mhm.
And so I heard back from there first, and I decided to go there, and I got into the licensed practical nurse program there. And so now I went and got my diploma, and then after 2 years, I did my practicum back in the city I grew up in, and now I work in that city as a nurse. So
Damn.
yeah.
Okay. So, sorry. That's amazing. It sounds like you've been all over and really tried to figure yourself out through all these like different experiences.
I
Uh,
wouldn't say all over. I've been to a few places.
yeah, but even just like all these like career transitions and stuff, that just shows like how you're thinking as well. For like, what inspired you to get into nursing exactly? Was it something in particular that tingled towards it? And you said you weren't smart enough. Do you like why did you think that?
Well, I mean, the two major universities in the city that I currently live in, and
Mm-hmm,
actually one of them I now work at the doctor's office there for students.
mm-hmm,
Um, they have very high competitive averages for, I think it's math and physics,
mm-hmm,
to get in. And honestly, those are my like two worst subjects. Like you have to be high 90s in order to even just get into the nursing program. So I didn't think I was going to be smart enough because my GPA in high school wasn't high enough.
mm-hmm,
But I didn't realize that you could do a 4 year program and become an RN, which is where you get your um, degree in nursing, or you could do a 2 year program and get your LPN, which is where you get a diploma in nursing. And so I ended up doing the 2 year route and became LPN, a licensed practical nurse, through the college, and actually didn't have to have as high of a GPA for that as well, which
mm-hmm.
was not saying like I'm an awful. I know lots of very very smart nurses that
Megan,
are LPNs and
if I'm
very
being
smart, but
honest, I feel like I'm hearing literally like from what I'm interpreting from what you're saying, I'm hearing literally the opposite. You saw an obstacle in trying to get into that. You figured out ways around that obstacle. You made sure that you worked hard to ensure that you could
oh
get
well,
in,
thank
and that
you.
just shows passion and determination. I wouldn't even say like you're a bad nurse. In fact, I would say the opposite. It shows how much you care. Again, it shows how
Oh
much you
well,
care.
thank you.
So
But
don't worry about that.
honestly, and then you were asking about like why I thought I'd be a good nurse. You know,
Hmm.
looking back, it's so funny to our I don't really like nursing that much, but I've been doing
Hmm.
it for like 7 years now. So I mean, I think I'm a bit bitter
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit burnt out.
Hmm.
So I honestly have been kind of thinking about other career choices. And
Right.
right now I want to be a dietitian is kind of the route that I want to go.
Hmm.
The problem with that is that me and my husband live in one city, and the city we live in does not offer the program. And we have our roots pretty ingrained deep here with
Hmm.
both of our families and friends. And so we don't really want to uproot ourselves at this point in our life. So.
Right, that makes sense. But it's something that you're probably going to be open to for quite a while, right? And try to figure things around.
Oh, exactly. It's something that I'm going to continue having interest in. And then just depending where life takes us, that might be the route that I pursue in the future.
And
So we'll see.
that's amazing. That's awesome. And I love how you're constantly thinking about this stuff because I feel like when people get like stuck in a routine or in a job, they legitimately get stuck. They don't see any other options. And because of that, they don't even consider it, and then they become miserable and just it's an endless loop.
Yeah, I think that that is a case with a lot of. I think that you get especially as you get more comfortable with making money and you get afraid to do something where you have to pay money and you aren't having a steady income and you might have student loans and stuff. Even me, I'm a little bit afraid of that. But
Mhm.
it's part of life.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me saying, I know you got married fairly recently, but I've always seen you as like such a family-oriented person, and based on what you were saying, like that's like a big thing for you. So how are you finding the transition to like married life, and how have you found like integrating like your own culture and your own family with your like your husband's?
Oh, it's so funny. I know you got married recently. You were there.
See, of course. Trying to keep myself out of this a little bit.
You're like, I'm
It was a
okay. You can
beautiful,
edit that
beautiful
out as well.
wedding. I loved it. Good job with everything. And thanks again for all the
Thank
iced
you.
tea.
Yes, I had to make sure there was lots of iced tea for you.
Beautiful drink.
Uh honestly, well, you've known both me and my husband for a long time, but
Hmm.
I mean, nothing has really changed besides my last name, to be honest,
Hmm.
because we already lived together and had a house and had been together for well, ongoing 6 years now, but at the time 5 years. So nothing really changed besides my last name and the fact that I have an extra ring on my finger.
Nice.
But I'm loving it. As you know, my husband has been part of my family for a long time. Even before we started dating, we were really good friends. So
Hmm.
it's really nice. Oh, my dog's just coming down some stairs with some force there. Don't mind.
I love your dog.
So, well, yeah, he loves you.
That's awesome. But in regards to like if someone was like looking for a new relationship or like I guess do you want to like share a little bit about how you two met and what made that
Oh,
connection? Because I personally think
oh,
it's a
our
beautiful
love
story.
story. Well, so as you know, we met in like grade 10 art class. So I sat down. It was the very first day of grade 10. It was my first class. So brand new school because I just went to high school. Brand new people, didn't know anybody. I don't think any of my friends were in my art class. I think I knew a few people from junior high.
Hmm.
So I sat down next to them. And then this guy sat down across from me and he was like, "Hi, I'm Sammy." Well, hopefully he's not mad that I used his name. But
He'll
anyway,
he'll be on pretty soon. Don't worry about it.
okay, cool, 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 cool. So anyway, we met and introduced, and then as high school went on, we ended up in a few other classes together and became pretty close friends. One of the classes was tech theater, and it was we did the school production, and backstage we were both techs, like techies, like the people that run and move the furniture pieces and the props for the set.
Hmm.
So backstage during one of the productions, I don't know why, but it came up. We were like, "Oh, we should get married," like jokingly. And there's these like shims, like almost like a door stopper that we used for some of the prop pieces. And we were like, "Oh," so all the techies gathered round, and I like jokingly put on this. I think there's like a veil, and we got married. So the joke in high school is that he was my husband. Um, Anyway, and then like I said, we were just really close friends. I actually had a really big crush on him in high school. Um, you told me, and he told me. Apparently, I asked him out, but I must have been so embarrassed that I blocked out this memory. But he said no because he didn't like me. So anyway, fast forward a couple of years, and when I was in university, I started dating my ex partner, and then I guess at the time, while I was in that relationship for a couple of years, my husband actually had a crush on me, but I was in a relationship with somebody else. So he just kind of let it be.
Hmm.
And we were still really good friends and we had the same friend group and we were hanging out. And then the last year of my relationship with my ex partner just kind of, like we were in a relationship, but like really
Hmm.
weren't. And it was like being single, but not, if that makes sense.
Right.
Anyway,
It kind of does. I'll ask you about it later. Continue the story.
yeah, no, it was like we were in a relationship, but like they lived in a different town because they were finishing school and I was working and just like different priorities and stuff. And
Right. So
then
like a certain level of distance came emotionally between you two because you were moving down different paths in life, right? Like that's it just.
exactly,
Hmm.
and it happens, right? Like, and at the time when we started dating, I think I was 18,
Hmm.
and then when we broke up, I think I was 21 or 22. So I mean, we're still pretty young at the time, right?
Hmm.
And so anyway, that summer, I was on a trip with Sammy. We were supposed to go on this big trip, but then it fizzled out. So it just ended up just being Sammy and I. And for reasons my ex couldn't come because of a whole whackload of things that happened that I will leave in the past. Anyway, so I was out there with Sammy and we were just hanging out and just having such a good time. And I just realized I was like, because I had been so depressed that whole year and just felt kind of lost and stuff, I was like, I think that it might be time for me to move on and see what else there is out there for me. I just bought in a house that hadn't been finished yet, or a condo, I should say. It was being built, and I was, like ready to move on with my life and grow up and experience things.
Hmm.
So when I got back from that trip, I decided to break up with my ex, and then Sammy and I. It was at the very beginning of the summer, and we ended up spending all summer together, Sammy and I, like the whole summer. And I was I was like, "Okay, either I'm gonna be single for a really, really long time or I'm gonna date Sammy." I'm like, "There's no in between. That's it."
Oh, you had your like radar on him, eh? Just like full on.
Yeah. Well, I was like, "I don't really wanna date anybody unless it's Sammy." I'm like, "I really like Sammy, but if I'm going out on the dating scene, I'm just gonna be single." But I'm like, "If Sammy likes me, I'm not gonna pass up that opportunity."
Hmm.
And so anyway, we were spending all this time together, and then closer to the end of summer, um, classic as it goes, we went camping, Sammy and I and another friend of ours, and we were camping, and I had been drinking because that's what I do. I drink and I know things. That's um, as I had been drinking, so I had a little bit of the liquid courage, and we were around the campfire, and then I had to go to the outhouse to go to the washroom, and so we were walking to the outhouse and talking about something and laughing, and I just decided, I was like, I'm just gonna kiss him. And because in my drunk mind, I was like, if he doesn't kiss back or doesn't like it, I can be like, oh, it was the liquor. But if he does like it, then you know he likes you too. Because I didn't know because it was like all summer. I'd kind of like been hinting that I liked him, and then like I
Hmm.
thought that he liked me, but I didn't know for sure.
Yeah, guys are
Um,
idiots. Anyways.
yeah. Well, actually, talking to him now, he just was like, I didn't want to be a rebound.
Oh.
So that's our ongoing joke is
Okay.
that in 80 years, I'm going to be like, all right, I think I'm ready to move on.
Yeah. I,
'Cause- but anyway, yeah, that's our ongoing joke. So I'm saving that one for like 50 years from now.
yeah, yeah.
So
When you're ready to move
yeah,
on, right? It's just
yeah, exactly. So anyway, I kissed him, and then yeah, he ended up asking me. Um, Actually, I went the rest of the camp trip thinking that I had made a mistake because the next day he was like still friendly but like kind of distant, and I was like, what? And then he drove me home after the camp trip, and then in front of my parents who were outside like painting the shutters on the house, he was like, "Do you want to go on a date with me?" And I was like, "Yes." And then he kissed me on the cheek while my parents were watching. Talk about feeling like a giddy like 16-year-old girl at the age of 22 or whatever. So anyway, we went on a date and he picked me up in his really cool old car and we went for dim sum, which is like a type of Chinese food. And he got a fortune and it said somebody very attractive can't stop thinking about you.
mm,
And then yeah, the rest is history. So yeah, we've been dating. This year will be 6 years, and we've been married for 6 months. I think this month.
oh,
My math's
congratulations.
right. Yes, thank you. And honestly, he is my soulmate and my best friend, and I love him more than anything.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, he's wonderful. I love him so much. You might be able to hear him occasionally shouting in the background. He's playing video games.
There you go. Best way to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, that story is kind of amazing because to me, it feels like none of this would have gone the way that it did if A, you didn't have the courage to try and do something about it, and B, if you were not, able to self-identify that that other relationship wasn't what you were looking for, or that, that you were moving in different paths. And I think both things are very hard to do. So you should be patting yourself on the back.
Well, thank you very much. I think part of your question before is like relationship philosophy and philosophy. Holy
Hmm.
cow, I can't talk today.
It's all
um,
good.
and after I remember I came back from that first trip in the beginning of the summer
Hmm.
when I was kind of like, you know what, I need to end that relationship if I'm going to grow as a person. My former relationship. And when I got home and I was talking to my dad, I actually had a really good heart to heart with my dad. I think it was the night after I got back.
Hmm.
And he was just talking about how, and this has been my relationship philosophy since, and how me and Sammy, I feel, treat our relationship. And I'm pretty sure it was part of our vows, is that my dad said to me, he's like, everybody's trying to be first in this world. He's like, everybody wants to be number one, wants to get ahead of everybody else. He said, when you're in a relationship, you got to put the other person first. And
Hmm.
then he said, the key is, though, is that that person should put you first. And then you both end up on top. Then you're both number one.
Your dad
And
sounds so wise.
he is a very wise man. Um, but he also said when you have kids, you both put them first, and then your spouse next. And he said, and then your kids will always be on top because you brought your kids into the world. You have to do what you can to support them, right? So
Hmm.
And I thought that that was really it really resonated with me, and I think it's true, and it's what Sammy and I do is we always put each other first in all things. Big decisions we talk out, if we're having issues in our relationship,
Hmm.
which isn't often, but and you spend that much time with anybody, you're going to get annoyed with them.
Right.
We just like talk things through and try and put the other person first, and it doesn't have to be grand gestures of love. Like
Hmm.
I bought you this $300 ring and for just because and some flowers, just like little things like. Sammy knows that I hate vacuuming and mopping, so he does the vacuuming and the mopping.
Hmm.
Sometimes Sammy gets migraines, so it's like, oh, I'll let the dogs out tonight.
Huh.
Um, he knows that going to the gym in the morning is important to me, so he will let the dogs out in the morning for me and stuff. And it's just little things. We leave notes for each other around, even though we've been dating for so long. So yeah, like I think that those are the things that are most important in a relationship is just remembering that like at the end of the day, it's you two and you're a team and you're working together through
Hmm.
this life. So anyway, that's my little soapbox on relationships.
No, no, that's beautiful. And if you don't mind me asking, like, so because it took you guys like a very long time to like actually get together, and you both had to find yourselves on the way, obviously, right? But
Yeah.
you were saying like in your head, at a certain point, it was like if Sammy asks me out, I'll do it, right? Do you know what led to you actually having that emotion in you? Like, do you know how you were able to identify that, he is what I want now? Was there like a aha moment, or was it something that was like always there and it just came back out now that you were free from that other relationship? Free is a weird word.
I
But
know what you mean.
yeah.
I think I think that like I always thought Sammy was very, very attractive. Like
Hmm.
ever since the beginning. And like I said, I had a crush on him in high school. Apparently asked him out, apparently blocked that memory out.
Oh yeah, no,
But
I definitely remember that conversation.
attractive person and he is a wonderful person and I hope whoever he ends up with is just as amazing as he is. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah, like you're rooting
when
for
I
someone's
did
success because you genuinely care about them that much, but
yeah,
you
because
also,
they're
yeah. Mhm.
an awesome human, right? Like I was even talking to my one friend who she really wants to be in a relationship, but she's like doesn't really have anybody like a boyfriend. She doesn't have a boyfriend right now, which is fine,
Mhm.
but she wants to be in a relationship. And I was trying to explain to her like you should love and care about somebody so much that you want to be in a relationship with them, not I want to be in a relationship so I'm going to find some like you know what I mean?
Oh, no, 100%. I think what you're talking about is, in my opinion, one of the most dangerous things that people get into when they start getting lonely, right? It's like
Is that they just want a relationship for the relationship but not because they
exactly,
care about that person.
exactly. They start undervaluing themselves and feel like it's something they need to do. But in all honesty, until you're happy with yourself, you're not going to be happier with someone else. It's just an escape at a certain point. So I completely see what you're saying.
Oh no, exactly. And I think at some point in that summer, I mean, I'm getting senile, it's been a while, but I think like I realized that where I was in my life, I wasn't happy with. And then um, when I was single for a little bit in the summer there, it was like, I am having so much fun with this person and I love and care about this person as a friend. And if they wanted to if they love and care about me too, and they want to be something more than just friends, I want that with them. But if
Hmm.
they don't want that with me, then we'll just keep being friends and I'm going to work on myself. Like, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
wasn't going to actively go find some random stranger just to be in a relationship with them, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. And there was always a tingle. That's kind of beautiful. Just
Yeah, I hope that makes sense. I mean, it's
no,
really
no.
Complicated to describe, but
Honestly, well, that's why I asked, right? So honestly,
yeah.
I think that does make a lot of sense because you were never close-minded to having him as a partner, and you were always rooting for him when you weren't with him. So that goes back to what you were saying about like your philosophy about relationships is lifting the other person up, and
I think that should be the thing, right? Like you should
mm-hmm,
want whatever's best for that person. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember I had a conversation, actually, I think it was like 2 weeks before Sammy and I started dating. I was in Kelowna again. I went to Kelowna so much that summer. Oh my god, I'm pinpointing my location. Anyway, don't tell people. I
What's
was
Kelowna now?
where's that? I don't know.
Yeah,
Never heard
it's
of it.
it's in Alaska,
Um,
right?
yeah, obviously. But I remember I was standing there. I was with Sammy's brother, and we're going sea doing, you know.
Hmm.
And Sammy went to grab something, so I was standing in the water with his brother, like holding the sea doos, and I'm like, man, Sammy's just like so awesome. I like just hope that whoever he ends up with is just as awesome as him.
Hmm.
And his brother like turns to me and says, "Why don't you marry him?" And like now, look where we are 6 years later. Anyway, I
Yeah,
just
his
thought that
brother
was
called it.
funny. Yeah, he's psychic. Are you listening? Wonder if he's listening right
He
now.
doesn't need to.
Anyway,
He's got this.
yeah, he's already knows.
No, that's genuinely so beautiful. And so because you'd known him for so long, you probably knew his family pretty well. So that was probably a pretty easy transition as well, eh? Just like getting that relationship, getting to know them. Like they were. It sounds like they were already rooting for you.
Yeah, I mean, I already knew them and stuff like as like my friends' parents. So it was a little weird at first transitioning to the I'm the girlfriend, but I mean,
Oh, what was the weird part of that?
it's just, like awkward at first. Just that average I'm dating your son. I don't know how to describe it, but it only lasted like one supper, not even.
Right. And then it was like the new
Yeah.
norm, right? Okay, that's fair. I
Yeah.
guess it's just
Yeah.
like a transition, eh?
Yeah, well, you go from like I'll see them once in a while when I'm over at his house to okay, like we hang out with you all the time, and
Hmm.
you're now pretty much my parents. So,
That's beautiful. Do your parents, like both sides' parents and stuff, get along as well? Like, is that
uh,
pretty?
it seems like it. They've only met each other like a handful of times, and
Hmm.
then at the wedding, but they seem to get along. I mean, every Christmas they give each other gifts, so
Right. Wow,
that's got to be a good sign.
yeah, yeah. That's kind of beautiful. So you're close with your family as well. So it sounds like that like a lot of your views on relationships actually came from, and I'm making a big assumption here, correct me if I'm wrong, but from how you saw the love that your parents had with each other and that influenced and how they treated you, right? Is that correct? Like it sounds like that's where your philosophies and stuff came from for that.
Oh yeah, I'd say 110%. I mean, my parents, when they got married, were they had been dating for, I think, a year, and then they got engaged, dated another 6 months, and then got married. And they both lived at their parents' house and moved in together. So, I mean, they had a bit of a rougher patch
Hmm.
because they had to move out on their own and
Yeah.
live with somebody who they were married to all
Hmm.
at a very young age. I mean, I'm much older than my parents were when they got married. But they got through that hump of my dad says that my mom doesn't know how to squeeze the tube of toothpaste and my dad doesn't know how to vacuum. So they got through that and they are like such a great couple. Like you catch them dancing in the kitchen and they're kissing and holding hands and they're
Hmm.
they're really cute. And my dad and my mom always treated me and my sister very, very well and loving and caring for us, right? And
Hmm.
even I think sometimes describe it like me and my dad sometimes fight really, really, I don't want to say aggressively, but like loudly with each other because I think me
Passionately.
and my, yeah, passionately, because me and my dad are very similar. And then I
Hmm.
think that my mom and my sister fight really, really passionately against each other because they're very similar. So,
Mm.
but I think at the end of the day, like it was a very loving household to grow up in
Hmm.
and very good like life philosophies and we're not like super religious by any means, but I'd say we're very spiritual and do believe in enough. There's something else out there, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sorry, I've had a few conversations with people this week about spirituality versus religion.
Oh yeah.
To say,
It's a
well,
deep
not.
topic, man.
Yeah, it really is. It's really, really is. Okay, and then if you don't mind me asking, so you're also saying, so that's how you view your family and your husband, and that's part of your relationship. Um, being your friend, I know for a fact you're also amazing as a friend. So let me
Well,
clarify that part
thank
first
you.
and foremost.
Thank
But
you.
how do you view maintaining those kinds of relationships with your friends and stuff? And was it a bit of a transition for them, for like when you two first started dating? Because it sounds like I know you two have like such a close-knit community around you in regards to your friends, and those are people that you've known for since like high school and stuff. So,
Yeah, that's a really good question, Dor. I mean, so like Sammy and I had been friends since high school, and a lot of our friend groups are really, really like close knit. And um, I mean, it was tough because like I have friends from other walks of my life that
hmm
don't that I've now integrated with Sammy, but at the time didn't know him because, like my friends from nursing school or my friends from tourism studies, right? So that I feel like though they were a bit easier almost just because to them it was here's my boyfriend that you've never really met, and then they
hmm
were like okay cool. But with the friend group that like we kind of all hang out with and stuff, we actually ended up not telling people for we kind of like kept it on the down low for about a month
hmm
because we just wanted to see, we were kind of testing the waters too, right? Because we were like how is the transition from friend to dating gonna go, right? And
Right.
also my ex is part of our friend group too, so we
hmm
wanted to make sure that we spoke with him first before telling everybody and then somebody else telling him.
hmm
um, and I think it went relatively well. I mean, I know, I think there might have been a little bit of shock at first, like I don't think people saw it coming.
Oh,
Really.
really?
I think so. I think there's a handful of people that were kind of like what, but
Okay,
I mean,
your friends need to know you better,
yeah.
but anyways, keep going.
Well, I mean, I think like
Sorry,
just like
that was rude of me. I shouldn't have said that.
I
That's
don't know. Well, you saw the other side. Even me, I didn't see Sammy
uh
liking me coming from a mile away. You knew though, so that's
yeah.
different. But
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think like once the initial wait, what? Once they got over that, they were like happy for us, right? Like
hmm
even now, like all of our friends, like we're still friends with them, and I mean, I'm still friends with my ex. Like we have a close relationship too, so I like everything's been good, and everybody. I mean, everybody I talk to thinks that Sammy and I have a really, really healthy relationship and thinks that we're great together. And not to toot my own horn, but I agree with them.
No, no, you should definitely toot your own horn. Are you kidding? That's that's beautiful. If you have something that you should definitely be proud of, why not be proud of it, right? If
Well,
anything,
I think
it's a parable for other people for what they should be trying to achieve for.
it's kind of funny because Sammy's mom wanted us to do marriage counseling before we got married
Oh.
through the church. Sammy's family is a bit more religious than my family was.
hmm
So we did. And the marriage counselor legit told Sammy and I that we are boring because we get along so well. I'm like, what
Yeah.
happens when you're friends first?
Yes. Did you was he like go out there, start a fight, you know, bring some intensity
Well,
into
it was like there's like some I can't even remember. It was like some question. It's like you like every single new thing you learn about your partner, and we both answered yes. And he's like, you love every new thing you learn about your partner, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what am I supposed to not like something about? I'm like, I like every single quality about him, even the bad stuff, because it's what makes him who he is.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
Mm.
And honestly, I've felt like I've been in love just once, and that was the thing with it. It's like things you would normally find irritating in other people are suddenly like the most beautiful thing. And it's like,
It's like he annoys me for sure, but I love him to death, and everything that he does are like the reasons that I love him, like
yes.
so
No,
yeah.
that's
But
really beautiful, and that's
yeah,
amazing. Wow,
well,
and
thank you.
well, and also for like maintaining such a close knit friend group for so long. Do you have any secrets of the trade for that, or like what's your philosophy that's led
Oh
there?
my god, on friendship. Oof. That's like a loaded gun. Actually, so I have this one friend. I actually just kind of became friends with her in the past couple of years. You know
hmm
her too.
hmm
Um, and how it works is she is actually, once I say this, you'll know who I'm talking about. She was a friend of a friend's ex-wife. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yes. And so anyway, we actually became really close. And then when our my friend got divorced from his ex-wife, I was like, I don't want to lose her, and she didn't want to lose me either. So we're still friends. And I was actually talking with her on the phone this afternoon, And she had a friend that was like making her feel so bad about the fact that like she has stuff going on in her life. And I told her, I'm like, you can't feel bad about that.
Mm-hmm.
We're adults. We have our own life. We have jobs. We have, some of us have pets, some of us have kids, we have significant others, we have houses and mortgage and rent, or all it is pressure from these people who are your
Mm-hmm.
friends that are to keep in contact. I'm like, I my philosophy with friends is that I have friends that I go months, weeks, sometimes even years without seeing. And if they showed up on my doorstep and needed somewhere to sleep, I have a room for them. And
Mm-hmm.
my expectation, and I don't know if I should use expectation, but the thing is I pick my friends based on the same philosophy. Could I show up on their doorstep at 2 in the morning and need a place to crash, and they would let me in, no questions asked? And that's how I know if I have good friends. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter if I talk to them every day or not. I have friends that I know I can do that. What's
Right.
the which it's there's the puppy beer and like money or something question. It's like, would you trust them to watch your dog? Would you trust them to go for a beer with you? And then there's like another one, and then the best kind of friends are that you can do all three or something.
I've never heard
So
that. That's beautiful.
here, let me find it. It's such a good saying. I'll find it for you because it is really good, and I think our all of our four listeners should hear the philosophy.
Yes, yes. That way they can make
So
four more friends, and then it'll be
yes,
eight listeners.
yes, and then we'll have 8 listeners, and we're really getting
Yes.
somewhere.
And they will be quoting this out of their arse just all the
Yeah.
time, right?
They'll enjoy listening to us all the time. Okay, here, let me find. Oh my God, it's on my Pinterest board. I know, so cool. What can I say? Um, now I'm not going to be able to find it because we're talking about it. That's
No,
how
no,
she goes.
don't honestly don't worry too much about it. It's
I
all good.
know, but it's just such good.
So
Oh, I don't
beautiful.
want to look at
I'm
my
kind of
house
excited.
stuff, but it is. Oh, not Dream House either. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong boards now. Okay, where are we? But no, it was such a beautiful scene. What was
Honestly, I love your philosophy though. Like all of this, like it sounds like you just I know you're a loving person, and it sounds like that love has really guided you through your life when picking partners, when picking friends, and you look for the same type of energy in other people as you give out yourself. And I'm sure giving out that energy also attracts it. But
well, and that's exactly it. As I got older, I realized that life's too short to deal with bullshit, and if people want to gossip and bullshit and whatever, I don't have time for that. I only have one life, and I'm going to live it, and I'm going to live it with people that I care about.
hmm no,
The
that
dog, a beer.
getting
I'm going to
closer.
see. Okay. 2 beers and a puppy. Oh, here. Um, it's the 2 beers and a puppy test. Let me read it to you.
Sure.
Oh, okay. 2 beers and a puppy. I knew it was something to do with beer and puppy.
God, I'm scared I'm
Um,
gonna have to cut out all my friends after hearing this and say no to everything. Just bye.
so you got to ask yourself two questions. It's like,
hmm
would I want to have 2 beers with this person, and would I trust them to look after my puppy for a weekend? So you want to have someone who is a 2 beers and a puppy person. So there's people out there that are no beers and a puppy. You really enjoy spending time. You don't really enjoy spending time with this person, but they're
hmm
trustworthy.
Right.
Or maybe there are 2 beers and no puppy, so you enjoy spending time with them, but they're not trustworthy. And then there's people that you can have beers with and trust them to watch your puppy. Is that make sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of
So
beautiful.
I try and surround myself with the people that are I would trust with my life and also could have a good time with. Those
hmm
are the people I want to spend my time with.
So I'm gonna take this a little bit deeper, but is there so to get to that level with someone, right? You need to get to know them, and you need to like have experiences with them and things like that, right? What's your way of identifying if a person is not right for your life, and if someone like people change as well? If someone like ends up changing from that criteria, do you cut them out? Do you talk to them? What's your way of dealing with that side of a relationship when it's not, suddenly it's more anguish than love or things like that? Because again,
You
I
know,
see you as very
oh man.
self-reflective based on everything you've said, right? Like you're constantly, it seems like you're constantly thinking about like what makes you happy, what makes you sad, and figuring things out. Otherwise, I don't think you could have gone where you are in life. I'm sorry, I keep rambling now.
Oh no, that's okay. As you know, I am a fumbler. I am a huge fumbler. Um, s- I mean, it's tough because I have a lot of friends that, they were friends with me at one point in time. And I mean, they still are my friends and I still consider them a friend,
Hmm.
but I don't talk to them regularly. They live in a different town. I don't get to see them all the time. So it's not necessarily I've cut them out of my life. I
Right.
still follow them on Instagram and Facebook and I want all that's best for them. It's just that life has taken us in different directions.
Hmm.
Like, for example, one of my friends from high school I used to spend every single day with. Like, we had the exact same class schedule, same spare, same everything. And now she's in Korea teaching English to
That is so
students. And
cool.
I know, and I'm here in Calgary. And if I saw her, I'd love to hang out with her and we'd probably pick up right where we left off. But it's just life circumstances have taken us apart. So I have friends like that it's not that I've cut them out. It's just where life's taken us. That's naturally how things go.
Hmm.
I've also had friends where, for example, in nursing school, um, I mean, I wasn't as, I guess, brave or as strong as a person as I am now, but I definitely had to cut this person out because they were super toxic. And every time we hung out, all she'd do was sit there on her phone. She'd text other people. All she cared about was her social media presence. And then she'd be so upset that, like, and I'm sometimes the worst texter in the world, or I am not very good at talking on the phone usually.
Me too. It means we have lives. That's what that means. But
Yeah,
go on.
but she like would get so mad when I had to turn my read receipts off on my iPhone because she'd get so mad if I didn't text her back right away. And
Oh, jeez.
that was the kind of friendship where I had to draw the line in the sand and be like, look, like this is toxic. Like
Hmm.
I wouldn't like I don't expect this of you and it's frustrating because you're expecting it of me and this isn't healthy.
Right.
So
Hmm.
I hope that kind of answers your question. But a lot of my friendships that I don't talk to them anymore, it's not because I've cut them out. I don't actually often cut people out of my life. It's just we've drifted apart.
Hmm.
Most of the time it comes down to we've drifted apart. But if
Hmm.
it came down to it, I just kind of look at how I would treat somebody and if it's not, then
Sorry, you cut out after
I
look.
oh my god. I just look at it like if would I treat somebody that way and if I'm not going to treat ugh, man, now I can't think of how I worded that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, that's okay. But I hope you kind of picked up where I'm
Yeah,
going with
yeah.
that.
You're still just evaluating as so you wouldn't go out of your way to cut someone out, and if someone ever needed you and you felt like they needed you, you would still be there for them because you genuinely care about people that much, right? Like it's deeply ingrained in you.
Exactly,
That
exactly.
that makes a
So
lot of sense. Again, that just speaks to your character as a person, right? But is that ever exhausting though? I feel like that's a lot of love to give out to people, right? So it's
I think that the people I've surrounded myself with, though, are like you. I mean, obviously you're one of my friends,
yeah.
and like my other friends, like they're all of the same philosophy. So we're there
Hmm.
when we need each other, but like we don't have an expectation that you're there all the time, right? Like we
Right.
each only have so much we can hold and give,
Hmm.
and we need support from others. And we're going to be there when they really, really need it, but like all the time, you can't give and give and give, right? And sometimes you have to keep for yourself.
Oh
Like
yeah, it's
for
it's like being on an airplane, right? Like gotta help the help yourself before you help the people around you.
no, exactly. And I think almost all of my friends have that same philosophy. So we're all in this like really good balance of
Hmm.
especially my close friends that we don't talk all the time, but when we do talk, like things are good and there's no harsh feelings and we recognize that everybody's got their own lives going on. So,
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
hmm
I love that. I think that's a good way of like, trying to like live your life and maintain a relationship. It's like a healthy balance, right? That wouldn't
well, and I
miss.
think that's the key, right? Like I've only cut out a handful of people and they've usually done stuff that just like I just personally can't like their morals almost don't
They don't match
align,
yours.
right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
So
tricky. But that makes sense. It sounds like you have a very healthy way of reflecting on all that. And you know what? I feel like that's also going towards like, your career stuff. Like you're already recognizing like, hey, this is maybe not the thing I want to do anymore, and you're able to figure that out and then take it all there. Like all of that relates back so well. I'm starting to understand you way better, and I love it.
Well, thank you. I just think that like at the end of the day, I think it's very important to recognize that yes, like there are challenges in life and there's going to be struggles. And I recognize that as a straight white female
Hmm.
from a middle class family, I do have more advantages than some people in society. So
Hmm.
I am very blessed and very lucky, and my parents were very, very helpful and getting me a foot up in the world. So I do recognize all that. But I just often, a lot of people I find have troubles where it's, a lot of it is mental and it's yourself, and it's part of it is like you have to you sometimes can be your biggest obstacle. And I think I recognize because I've always been my biggest obstacle. So it's just one of those things where it's like be scared, but do it anyway, if
uh,
that makes sense.
No,
So
no, it does. And I think you're speaking to one of my biggest personal beliefs, and that's like just recognizing that the only person's actions that you can control are your own, and the only person's
exactly.
emotions you can truly understand are your own. And
Exactly.
anything beyond that, whatever results you get from the actions you're doing and stuff, like that's completely out of your control, right? So like,
Oh, exactly.
yeah.
And I think that my biggest philosophy too is I try and leave the world like you don't have a reason not to help people, and
Hmm.
you should leave the world a better place than you found,
Right. Hmm.
you know.
No, I
So
love that. I love that. And you know what? It's only with that attitude, like even just like how you and Sammy ended up like actually being in a relationship. It was the same thing. You did exactly what was in your control. Sure, you created a semi safety net with the whole drinking thing, but
yeah, my drunk brain was like, this is a great plan.
yeah, I like your drunk brain. It seemed it made a great plan. So no, but that's awesome. I love how all that worked out, and it goes to the same thing. You just did what you could to get what you wanted after you recognized what you wanted, right? And I'm sure you and Sammy hung out so much that that summer was for very similar reasons. Like I'm sure you just kept saying yes, right, to that, which is all you
Oh
can do to
yeah.
try to connect.
Well, I just remember we watched. I think this was a few weeks before. We were watching. Oh, what's that? Tron or whatever.
Oh
And he had just moved into this basement, and like he had his arm around me, but I like didn't know if it was friendly or what. Oh, it was just.
yeah.
I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, people ask me for dating advice. I'm like, I haven't been like, I don't know how to use online dating. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I kind of hope for the best.
No, and honestly, that's what all you can do. You can't just like force someone to love you. You just got to recognize like, what those things are. And it's actually funny hearing that from you because I've heard that from like a lot of guys where they're like overthinking the actual movement of like putting their arm over someone or something like that. And then like, it's because I'm sure and Sammy said it was very similar the opposite way. Can I do this? Would she be upset?
Oh yeah.
And so on and so forth. So hearing the other side of it, oh, what does this mean? It's like, it's kind of funny for me to hear
Oh
about,
yeah.
right?
I know. It's just I think that we like it goes back to the we're our own biggest obstacle, right? Like in
Hmm.
anxiety, I mean anxiety is good for us in certain ways, especially
Yes.
hundreds of thousands of years ago running away from tigers and shit. But like I think like it's our biggest enemy sometimes because it's like you're overthinking like simple things that shouldn't. And I suffer from anxiety, and that's
Hmm.
the past 2 years I think is something I've had to learn is just gotta let it be. You're gonna feel anxious. That's okay. It's just feel it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you know what? When you say that, honestly, I agree with you. I think there's like such a negative connotation with like anxiety and stuff. But definitely, I think there's so many benefits to it as long as you start getting comfortable with it, right? Like, because it's an uncomfortable feeling, but so is feelings like love, anger, sadness. All of those are just uncomfortable, but they're a part of you still, right?
Oh, exactly. It's like if you. are the weather. It's like it's the feelings are just passing weather patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Snow, rain, sunshine, like they're all going to happen and there's nothing you can really do to prevent them. All
Mm-hmm.
you can do is just observe and accept that, oh, it's raining today. Oh, I'm anxious today, you know?
This is gonna
So
make you sound like a masochist, but just enjoy it.
no, and that's actually a lot of what I've had to go through. And my therapist was saying, like, just feel those feelings. She's
Yeah.
like, okay, think through the worst situation. What's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen? How do you feel? Where are you feeling anxious? Okay, like, what support systems do you have if that happened? And it's
Mm-hmm.
just, once you kind of think through it, it's like, it's not as scary anymore. It kind of feels like this big scary monster until you kind of like look at it
Yeah.
from that perspective and
Mm-hmm.
feel it, and then you're like, oh, it's not as scary. It looked like a huge gigantic like scary doberman, but it's actually a little tiny fluffy shih tzu, which,
Yeah.
not saying that dobermans aren't adorable. I do love big dogs as a big dog person, but you
I,
know
I,
what I mean, like,
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Like, you're just using it as a metaphor. Don't worry, we got you.
yeah. Okay, cool.
um,
I love big dogs. I have two big dogs. I'm just using it as a
yeah, you're
metaphor.
not a
So
doggist. You're good.
I'm not a doggist. No, exactly.
Love all
So
dogs equally. Love it.
yes,
And
exactly.
you know what? And I so very agree with that. Like I personally have had like panic attacks in my life, right? And they
Yeah,
just happen so arbitrarily. But the first time I had it, I literally thought the world was ending. Like I had no idea what was
it
going on. It
feels
was like
like
heart
it.
attack. Yeah, exactly. But
Oh,
now
it
it's like
feels.
it's comforting. It's like okay, I got it. Just got to breathe it through. It's nice. I'm still having them. It's good.
I know, and I think especially like, I mean, everyday anxiety is like one thing, but
Hmm.
especially panic attacks, it's so much harder to recognize that it's okay, it's going to pass.
Hmm.
I just sit on the kitchen floor. That always makes me feel a little bit better.
Ooh, I might have to
Something
try that
solid.
one.
Yeah,
I tend to just breathe it through and just try to
that's
close
a
my
good
eyes
thing.
and relax and just yeah.
Have you tried the like five things you feel, five things you hear, five things you like see,
Oh no,
five things you
what is
smell?
that? That's interesting. Is that let's say you
So
just try recognizing all of those things? Is that what that is?
yeah, so if you're in a panic attack and you're starting
Mm-hmm.
to get like you, instead of focusing on like your anxiety and like, how it starts amping up, you're like, oh no, I'm anxious. Oh my God, I'm anxious. It's like, okay, I feel like, for example, I'm sitting on the couch right now. So the couch is soft underneath me and my laptop's on my lap and I can feel it digging into this part of my leg, and I'm wearing two sweaters, so I'm a little bit like toasty and
Oh,
like, you know what I mean?
interesting. Yeah. So my panic attacks, they're not really from anxiety. Um, well, at least I don't, from what I understand, they're not. It just randomly. Apparently, I've suppressed so many like emotions through the years that
Oh
all at
my gosh.
once, every once in a while, they just come out.
Oh
And
my God.
so it's like a sudden eruption of like
Oh.
the heart starts racing and everything. So it's not like thinking about anything that causes it. It's just
It's just,
absolutely random. So it's just like
that's
so out of the
awful.
blue. Oh, I again, I used to think it was a lot worse, but now I'm like, that's okay. That means it's gonna pass through, and that's my body releasing something inside of me, and that's perfectly fine. I just gotta, like I said, this is gonna sound like a masochist, but just enjoy it, right? Like just take that
Just
moment to
ride that storm, right? So I'm
exactly.
I'm sorry that you experienced that
Oh,
though.
don't
That's
know. It's
awful. But
it's
it
not a
seems
big deal.
like you handle it well. Yeah.
The first time was bad though, so like, but I can't even imagine with anxiety, like that stuff must just like fully creep on, right? Like, because if you can start feeling it slowly coming, that's scary. So,
Well, I think, I mean, I don't know if you suffer from generalized anxiety disorder. Most of the time it's just, for me it's like, I was telling Sammy, it's like I never stop thinking. I'm always thinking about something, always
hmm
have checklists of things to do. I'm just constantly go, 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 go. The house being dirty makes me anxious because it's disorganized and
uh,
I need like order. And I'm a lot better now. I'm medicated and I'm able to think through things. And the best way to describe it since starting medication is that instead of screaming in my head, it's more like whispers. So I'm able to like sift through it. But I just, when I have panic attacks, it's usually, last one I had, I think, was last year about taxes because God forbid
taxes
our school
suck.
system teach us how to do taxes. No.
So true.
So
So
anyway,
true.
I had a full blown panic attack about taxes and then cried and sat on the floor. So, um, that's cool. But I
Honestly,
don't usually feel them until they start, and then I'm like, ah, shit, here we go, and then I'm crying.
I'm gonna say this again, but even what you're describing here, right, it again is speaking to me about literally like, every part of what you're saying goes back to you're really good at identifying things about yourself, right? And I think that's a skill that most people don't have. They're not able to identify like these are the issues I have, or this is what I want, and so on and so forth. And I hope like people listen to this and they're able to like create more of those skills in themselves because it sounds like you've taken all of those things and you've figured out ways to turn them into something healthy or an opportunity. And that's what's given you so much motivation through life, right? And I know this is weird to say from like, I have anxiety attacks to like, that's
Oh,
beautiful in a way because it's like reflective of everything else you were saying. And it's like, wow, that's amazing.
well, I mean, I think I guess you're your own worst critic, but I don't see it that way. But
Hmm.
it's nice to hear you say that, and I think the reason I feel maybe that way is I have recognized for a little bit, like besides Sammy, ain't nobody else got my best interest at heart. Maybe my parents, but so I gotta put myself before everything. And
Yeah, but
which
you
besides
do
Sammy, I put
it.
Sammy first. But you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Hmm. But like, you still do it in such a selfless way, right? Like,
oh
because
well, thank you. You're just making me feel
no,
so
I'm trying
elevated
to
and
just
wonderful.
point out to people if they don't see this, like just how this is like working, right? Because what you're saying when people hear something like that, they're like, oh, they might think that this is selfish, but everything else you've said is all about loving others and loving yourself, right? And those are the two things that you're putting in tandem with each other, and I just think that's beautiful. I think that's something
Well,
that everyone should do.
thank Well, I will just say that, you have no reason not to help other people, and
Hmm.
you have no reason not to help yourself.
Yeah.
And don't be hard on yourself. You only get one life, and you got to live your life the best way. And life's too short to beat yourself up.
Yeah,
So, I
although,
think,
like you said, we are our own worst critics, so it's like so hard not to do that, right? So,
oh, I know exactly. And I think it's a survival mechanism, right? Like,
hmm.
we're always constantly trying to improve so that you don't get eaten by a tiger. Okay, you got to run faster because if you run slower, you're going to get eaten. But anyway, I digress. I just hope that whoever our three listeners are enjoying this, and that I can help inspire them to put themselves first. And
You're already inspiring me, so I have no doubt that they wouldn't get at least a
well,
little inspiration from this.
I hope you put yourself first too, Dor. So
Oh,
I
thank you.
will say it is starting to get late. So
No, I was
I'm
actually
an
gonna
old
say
woman
that
at
as
heart.
well. Hmm.
I'm turned into a pumpkin, so I have to be careful about my time.
No, no, that's totally fair. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Megan. And honestly, there's a lot of good tidbits in this conversation. So I really
Well,
appreciate
thank
you
you.
taking the time for that. And I hope people are able to, like you said, treat themselves with love and find love in others in the same way, and that they stay open-minded to the experiences in their life because it feels like that's what you did throughout, right? And that sounds amazing. Open discussions
Yes.
is how we started with this, and I think that you've
Yeah.
done that through your life, including with yourself.
Well, Well, thank you so much. No, Dora, I hope I helped with your podcast and answered your questions all right.
Oh,
And I just
absolutely. Mhm.
all I can say is life is literally a roller coaster, and you only get one, so just treat yourself good. So
And no, yeah, and that sounds beautiful. Well, thanks for coming on.